here, no spirit of fear, I decree and declare. We got victory, yeah. We got victory, yeah. I can take your burdens and put it on me. Oh, I can make you smile.
Yeah, man. Recently released an EP project called Lost and Found, and I hadn't released music in about, say, 3 years. So it was definitely a good welcome back EP. For those that have been following me, you know that, once upon a time I released an EP called Prodigal Son 1 and 2. And for me, it was a good comeback because it's been a long time, man. I love doing music. And yeah, I think it's a great way to share the gospel. Smile Now. Smile is a track whereby I'm basically unpacking and unraveling the different trials and different storms in which people may face in their walk. And I basically tell the believer or tell the person in which is listening to the track that God has got it. Like, we serve the God that can calm the storm, that can calm the sea. The sea, the winds, they obey him. So you have nothing to be worried about. So put your cares and put your burdens on him because he's got you. And that's essentially the epitome of the song. And that's what inspired me to write that track. The whole concept of Lost and Found is the prodigal son story, right? He once upon a time was lost, and then later on, he was redirected and he was found, right? And that is my story. And there are many people out there that may feel like they're lost and they don't quite know where life is going. And, we're seeing a vast number of people giving their life to Christ and actually being awakened to the reality of eternity. And there are many people that don't know where they reside here on planet Earth, let alone where their eternal dwelling place will be. So Lost and Found was, a culmination of tracks whereby I'm trying to tap into the person that is somewhat becoming conscious of faith or somewhat becoming conscious of the world in which they live in, and not just sort of living life and just letting things pass them by. So I think music is a great tool because you're able to tap into areas in which certain people don't necessarily, pay mind to. And what I mean by that is someone can say something to you and then you can just put them in a box. But when it comes to music, you don't really have permission. You just take it in and you make of it what you will. So essentially, Lost and Found is a project whereby I'm not only speaking to believers, I'm speaking to those that don't even know the Lord, and those that are searching, and those that are having big questions, and those that are wanting to essentially find themselves. And in that pursuit of finding themselves, it's my prayer and hope that they find Christ. For sure, man. So, born and raised in the UK, but my story is dynamic because I was born in the UK and then at the age of 2, I moved to Ghana. And then at the age of 4, I was selling ice cream on the streets of Accra. And then essentially that was a crazy period because my mum was a single parent mum. She didn't have enough money to sustain herself, myself. So she thought the best thing would be for me to go back and live with her sisters. Just go back. So essentially my mum was saying, I think to herself, she was saying to herself that the best thing would be for me to move back with her sisters. And I stayed there for about 5 years while she sort of saved up some money to be able to maintain a household, maintain having a child, etc. So moving back to Ghana was a great experience. I mean, definitely challenging. I still remember bits of it. Selling ice cream was interesting in itself as well. It's just some of the things in which one has to do to stay afloat, I guess. But something my auntie used to say is, look, for every ice cream you sell, you can eat one. So by the age of 5, I just needed a year, just needed 365 days. By the age of 5, I became an ice cream connoisseur. So there'll be times I wouldn't even sell an ice cream, I just start eating it. So that was an interesting sort of period of my life. I think it definitely instilled some good core values in me as a young boy, and it, gave me good foundation. When I moved back to the UK at the age of 7, just looking around me, I was like, wow, these kids do not respect their elders. Like, there's just so much binary opposites to what I've seen and to what I'm encountering now, but then I did definitely see the opportunity. I was like, wow, there's so much more opportunity here. And I think I'd say I was definitely a lot more aware of my surroundings because of the vast difference in which I was encountering. And now when I think of it, even when there was like other sort of kids from different parts of the world joining our school, perhaps maybe they'd moved from Africa or Asia, I always noticed that those students had a different kind of drive. Those people that had lived in harder circumstances coming into the UK and living in, the land of opportunities, they had a different kind of drive. And I mean, I saw it in my mum, I saw it in the drive that she had, working 3 jobs, to keep the lights on and etc. And that all sort of pushed me to wanting more in life. So growing up, I didn't have a father figure. I didn't really see my father a lot at all. I'd see him every so often, but I remember a period when I would definitely see him, which was on my birthday. And that would be the 27th of December. And I mean, like, people that split up, they have their differences, right? And as you grow older, you kind of hear each side's story. And whatever the stories were, I was just like, cool, well, I want you my life. In terms of my dad, I want you my life. But I wouldn't see him often because of the differences him and my mum had. But every December 27th, he would come by and I'll get £100. That was my birthday gift. It wouldn't be given to me, it'd be given to my mum. But I remember as a kid, by my window in the living room, waiting for him to come, hoping that he'll come to spend time with me. And I'll be waiting from, say, 10 a.m., I kid you not, to 10 p.m., just waiting by the window. And the reason why I mention that is because as a grown man now with 2 kids and a wife, married for 6 years now, I can say that I see the importance of having a father figure. I see the importance of having elders in one's life because it shapes the person in which you become. And as a grown man, it's only recently that I've actually stepped away from that window. And I share that because there are many that are still clinging on to the fathers in which they would have loved to have had a relationship with, and I'm actually going to be writing some music about that in regards to, fatherlessness and the implications of it. So not having a father figure in my life meant that I was searching for belonging. I was searching for a place where I could reside and call home. Not home as in the sense of the literal word, but home as in like having people that I could look up to. So I had older cousins, and essentially they were into all types of stuff, they didn't necessarily get the, go back to Ghana, Africa kind of thing. They just lived in the UK. So the way in which they were brought up, the things in which they were exposed to look different at those early ages. So for some of my cousins and family members, they were rogues. So they were selling drugs and they had, all the latest clothes, the latest cars, and all of this stuff. And as a young boy, seeing that, it's obviously attractive, right? And inwardly, I'm like, nah, this ain't the right way though, because I know how they're getting their money. But when push came to shove and I was old enough to be able to actually earn my own money, I then was influenced to, selling drugs. So by the age of 15, I started selling drugs, Class B, and making money for myself, getting attention from girls and all of that stuff. And a part of me was like, I want to do the God thing, because at the age of 15, funny enough, I gave my life to Christ and I was in the faith for about 8 or so months. And I guess the temptation of sin and the things of this world and the lust of the flesh and all of those things drove me towards wanting to just see what that side of life was like. Okay, for sure, man. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying if I had had a father figure in my life, would my story have been different? I think it's based on the individual, one. But I do want to I do kind of want to pause there and just speak to the young people, because if you're on a path, if you're on a narrow path and you're young, like, I urge you to stay on that path, because nobody knows what tomorrow holds. Do you see? Like, nobody knows. As much as Christ is coming back, you don't know when your final day is going to be. If you're young and you're contemplating maybe giving your life to Christ, don't wait, because you don't know what tomorrow holds again. So it's best to serve the Lord in your youth. But staying on what you just said there, Mark, do I feel my life would have been different? It's a good question. I think in regards to holistically, when we're just looking at young people in general that don't have a father figure or that do have a father figure, I think it's based on the individual in respect of the fact that my morals and my ethics and my convictions may be completely different to Tyrone or Jonathan. Do you see where I'm coming from? But that's all based off how they've been raised. Do you see what I'm saying? And the morals and the ethics in which has been installed in them. So for me, there are just certain things that just didn't sit well with me. Do you see what I'm saying? And obviously, I'd given my life to Christ at a very young age, at the age of, say, 15. So that was a very core foundation that I had as well. So even when I was on the road, it's like, all right, cool, there's certain things I want to do. Like Y and B, that's just something that I said I would never sell. Like, I would never do that, you know. And still I was selling, but there were just levels to it. I just said to myself, there's just certain levels I will not go to, because I just rather not. It just doesn't sit well with me. So I say that to basically say, if I would have had a father figure, I think there would have been more of a standard to live up towards. But then again, there are some father figures that are just black dads. They're not pulling the weight as dads. So having a father figure isn't always necessarily, you know, it's not a guarantee that life is going to go the way it ought to go. Because there are dads that are present physically, but are absent emotionally and all the other ways as well. Do you see what I'm saying? So there are people that have dads and they're just badness, just on badness. So it's not always a guarantee that, you know, things are going to be roses and high water. So yeah, man. For sure, man. So obviously music is very powerful, man. Very, very powerful. Music has the power to influence a generation. And as we know, back then, grime was just the one. Like Crazy Titch, Dizzy Rascal, Tinty Strider, all these guys, Wiley, all these guys that were doing it were literally shaping the culture, shaping the generation. But at the time, my cousin, who I call my brother because me and him were very close, he was doing music and he was quite a well-known musician. He doesn't do it as much now, but he's a very well-known musician with the likes of many that are big. And he used to do it. So hearing and seeing him do it and seeing how big he was getting, it inspired me to also want to do music as well. And he also didn't have a father figure. And for me, when I started getting into it, I saw that it was a form of an outlet. All this pain, it's like picture a fizzy Coca-Cola bottle, shake it up. There's so much fizz, so much is happening inside that Coca-Cola bottle. And I found music to be an outlet. So imagine just poking a pin in that plastic Coca-Cola bottle. That fizz begins to decrease, and all that pain and all that absence and all that stuff that was stirring up in me, music was a way in which I would allow myself to just release some of the things in which I was experiencing that I couldn't audibly actually put into, words. But I guess in the form of rap, in the form of grime, I could do that. So that's actually how I started off. I started off doing grime, and then as years went on, I got into the secular side of things like heavily into the secular side of things, where I was, brushing shoulders with the likes of many top UK artists that are, worldly known. And some of the things I encountered there, I said to myself, I'm not willing to compromise what I stand for and what I believe for a pot of gold. Definitely gonna sell my soul. Oh, I wasn't a believer at this time at all, man. So this was like after the age of 15, like I was just fully just in the world, man. In the world, completely in the world. And yeah, I guess they say, the word says sin is sweet for a season. I was making a lot of money, doing all the things that I was doing. And essentially the music came to sort of tally up with that. So living a certain lifestyle, making illegitimate money, doing music in the world, brushing shoulders with the rich and famous. And it got to a place and point whereby I needed to make a decision. And the people in which I say it's not what you know, it's who you know. So placing myself around people that were very successful, like very, very successful in music, I began to see what I needed to do in order to get to those heights. And the truth of the matter is, you can be talented, but talent just isn't enough. There needs to be a spiritual commitment, so to speak. And I speak it plainly. There needs to be a spiritual commitment, because the world in which we live in is spiritual. Everything that happens in the physical takes place in the spiritual first. So they needed a spiritual commitment from myself. And there were certain things that I was encountering around these famous people that are, big musicians. And I was like playing dumb to it to begin with. And then as time went on, they tried to get me involved. And I was just like, nah, now it's going a bit too far. Like I've tried to play dumb, and I've tried to almost make it seem as if I don't really see in between the lines and I don't quite get it. But when it involved me personally, per se, I said, nah, I got to draw the line here. So yeah, man. Okay, cool, man, for sure, man. So there's this UK rapper, and I won't mention any names because who knows, they might give their life to Christ one day and come and shed light on all the things in which they got involved in, because the enemy's getting exposed. As the days get darker, the saints shine brighter. So yeah, I just pray that if he is listening, I pray that he'll, be convicted and repent of his sins and come to know the Lord Jesus Christ, man. But essentially this UK rapper, he's a #1 selling artist, been through many highs and lows, and essentially North London based as well, and essentially grew up with this guy as well. Anyway, probably giving it away, but it is what it is. Anyway, he recently cut this is at the time he cut his recent album at the time, and I had just come out of prison. So I went to prison for a little while. We can talk about that, get into that in a little while. So I came out of prison, and he basically hit me up through a friend, and he was like, he wants to link up, and we can chill. There was this girl across the road from where I lived, and he was like, look, let's link up, let's catch up. We'll cook, we'll chill, we'll chat, whatnot. So he was actually going to be chefing up some food at this girl's house, and it was 3 guys and then 5 girls came along. And I've never shared this story online. Funny enough, I've never ever shared this story before, but yeah, here we go. So yeah, he basically said that, look, we'll cook, we'll chill, we'll chat, we'll drink, we'll smoke, etc. Now the person that I went with, prior to us actually getting to this house, which was across the road from where my mum lived, he was like, bro, when we go there, I beg you, I don't want to drink, I don't want to smoke, I don't want to do any of that. And I was like, if you don't want to drink, don't drink. If you don't want to smoke, don't smoke. It's like, have some more power, man. It's like, for real, innit? For real, innit? For real. It's like, yeah, man, come on. And then as we got there, I kid you not, like, we walk in, we get to where we was chilling, actually went to the kitchen because that's where the cooking was happening. And this artist guy gives my mate a look. And this one look he gives him, he just starts taking shots and starts smoking. And I was like, isn't this the guy that just said to me, like, he don't want to smoke, he don't want to drink? So I was just confused. Now that I'm in the Lord, I get it, because there was a spiritual hierarchy. And whatever that person who is higher than him in the spiritual hierarchy, whatever he says, he has to essentially do. So I didn't get it at the time. I was just very confused. So I was like, that's weird, like, but okay, cool. So just plodding along normal, chilling, chatting whilst the cooking was happening. And then fast forward the story, the cooking's nearly done, more girls come. So there's 5 girls in total that were in the vicinity on that day, in the house on that day. And we're sort of, well, I was drinking, I was smoking, all that stuff, because I didn't say I didn't want to do none of the above, obviously in the world and that. So we've eaten, and then now they've known that he's recently finished his album. Everyone knows that he's recently finished his album. Now the album's not out at this point. Now, one of the girls said, can we please hear some of your latest music? And then he starts laughing. He's like, you want to hear my latest music, yeah? All right. But first, we got to turn off the light. And I was thinking in my head, what's the light got to do with your music, though? Why does the light have to go off for us to hear your music? So lo and behold, one of the girls, bloop, locks off the light. I'm just thinking to myself, I've heard things like from various different people, like within our circle, right? I've heard funny things about this particular person, but I don't want to judge him off of what I've heard. I want to see it to believe it. I actually wanted to get up and leave because I was like, this is booky. Like, what's going on? But I was like, there's so much girls here. I don't want to look like some shook guy. Do you get where I'm coming from? So I said, let me stay. So cut the long story short, the light's gone off. There's a Dre Beats pill in the middle of the table. The 8 of us are sitting around this table. And I kid you not, this is the very words that he said. He's like, all right, guys, now that the lights are off, we all need to hold hands and spiritually connect the way the song was made. I was like, what? I was like, I'm not holding no one's hand. Literally like this, folding my arms, said, I'm not holding no one's hand. And I give glory to God because I think had it not been for that foundation that I had, who knows? Literally, who knows? As much as I wanted music and I wanted, the heights of success and all of that stuff, I was like, nah, that selling soul thing, it starts here. This is it. This is it. So I said to myself, I ain't holding no one's hands. I kept on repeating it. Come on, guys, let's all hold hands and spiritually connect the way the song was made. Meanwhile, everyone's holding hands. And the guy that didn't want to smoke or drink, he's now possessed. Like, literally, I didn't know what was happening to him at the time. But he's like, you're in for a scary ride. Literally. And I was nudging him. I was like, fix up, bro. Fix up, fix up, fix up. Like, nudging him. I was scared, bro. Like, shook. This cold presence came into the room. I remember I was wearing my AJ jumper that day, a long sleeve AJ jumper with the AJ on the back, just as AJ on the back with a triangle on the, probably seen it anyway. And the whole room just went cold, like freezing. And the truth is, bro, like this dark presence came in the room as the music started playing. The music started playing and this presence came in the room. And I was just like, rah, this is mad. This is mad. I was shaking, bro. My teeth was doing this. Literally shook. And I'd never experienced fear like that before. And as the music was playing, we was in a spiritual state. We were in a spiritual state. Like, I was hearing the music from a spiritual standpoint, even though I didn't connect and hold hands with the rest of them. I was listening to the song from a spiritual place. And in this song, this particular artist was talking about, it was basically like, it could be seen as like, or shall I say, it could be interpreted as a breakup song. But really, this person was talking about them being trapped in hell and being deceived by this particular girl. If I say the name, it'll give away the person it is, so I'm not going to say the name. But basically, the Samson and the story where he's deceived by that particular character. And basically, he was saying that that character is a representation of the devil because he had been deceived by her. And you just think, when you hear it from just the natural plane, you just think it's a breakup song. But really, that person was saying he'd been deceived by the devil and he basically needs help. But you think it's a breakup song when you just listen to it on the radio, driving in your car, but really it wasn't that. And it was interesting that that person played that track because it could have been seen as a cry for help. And when I heard that track, I was like, whoa, like mad, like this is where he's at. He's in hell and he can't get out. So once the song finished, I decided I'll play one of my songs just to clear up the air. But basically, the girl that was sitting opposite this artist, her face went pale and purple. Now, obviously, I'm black, so I was probably more terrified than she was. But you're not going to see that in my face. But I was terrified. Like, hell was a real place, man. Like, and like, if I'm in the natural experiencing this, I can only imagine what those that are in the spiritual in eternity are experiencing. Mad. So her face was pale and purple. This is the younger sister of the girl's house we was in. She literally got up and ran upstairs and slammed her door. Didn't see her the whole night. I played one of my songs just to clear out the air. It was a worldly song, but basically the song is called Free Your Mind. I'm in a place whereby I'm like, should I give my life to the Lord and stay on that righteous path? Or should I just do what I used to do, which was to sell drugs, etc., etc.? So that's what that track is about. And after I played the track, we were sitting, I remember this like it was yesterday. We were sitting in the living room and we were watching Nevermind the Buzzcocks. And a few celebrities on the show at that time. And I was just saying to myself, like, it's mad, like, this is what they do to get to where they get to. Like, this stuff is real, like. And for me, like, I didn't believe it. I'd definitely done my research about the Illuminati and all of that, Freemasonry. I'd done my research because it was something I was actually contemplating on a mad one. But I would never, ever, ever really actually do it. I was just looking into it. And I said certain things like, yeah, like I'll join the Illuminati. I said stuff like this around them because I didn't believe it. But then they started to show me things and I was playing dumb to it. And then when that experience that I had there, it's just the intro of some of the things in which I encountered. Maybe that'd be for another interview, but some of the things that I encountered, mad. And I was just like, nah, I gotta pick a side. Either the lightness, either light or dark, and I can't be in between because I gotta get under God's canopy. So I decided that I'm gonna leave all of that and I'm just gonna give my life to the Lord, pursue righteousness. So yeah, man, and that was one of the main reasons that I gave my life to the Lord. Those encounters. Because I was like, if this evil is this real and this tangible, everything that I once believed in is 100% true. Fact, it'll be good for now. In regards to prison, just wrong crowds, making stupid decisions, obviously living a life on the edge, selling drugs, and getting involved in things that just wasn't me. I was like an AC guy. Bring me your square, we put some money in it, and we cut the bread, and drugs here and there, but I wasn't a robber guy. That wasn't me. And I decided to get into something that wasn't me when I was in a season of desperation. And it's just interesting, like, how God works, but also how the devil works, man. Like, how all these things are presented to you when you're in a season of need. you know. Had a job at the time because I was actually trying to get my life on the straight and narrow. I was selling drugs here and there, but I was actually trying to get my life on the straight and narrow. Then the recession happened at that point in time. I lost my job. And then a particular friend of mine that I'd grown up with was proposing that we do this, we do that. And I was like, no. It was like, if I tell him I've lost my job, he's going to even press me more about doing this thing. So I decided to go with it, and there was guns in the scene. I nearly lost my life on that day. But yeah, God being good, man. He came through. I got arrested, and actually getting jail was a blessing because the firearm was fired on the scene of the crime, a whole heap of stuff. And that was a crazy encounter. But what I experienced in that girl's table that day where they were holding hands, that experience doesn't compare to me nearly losing my life. The experience I had where these guys were holding hands, that was a crazier experience than me nearly losing my life. That's how mad it was. Literally, I need to present the two because it could be seen as if you nearly lost your life and that's mad. But that literally isn't as mad as me being in that kitchen that day where we were listening to music, eating, and that presence coming in the room, and that 3 minutes and something song feeling like it was going on for days. That experience was far more crazier than the experience I had maybe losing my life before going jail. For sure. So it didn't, that change didn't happen immediately. I was still on the roads because when I came out, one of my friends had like a #1 album. That same particular friend, the artist guy. So he had a #1 album. I had another friend who was playing in the Premiership. So whilst I was in jail, I was around these guys just the other day. I'm in jail, I'm a bum. When I come out on road, I'm gonna make sure I do my thing. Music is the lane I want to pursue. So I'm gonna give everything to music. And obviously not what you know, who you know, being around those people and seeing all of that, it propelled me to really make a decision. I said, no, I can do it without selling my soul though. I'm sure I can. But as much as that could have been true, really, I was going to have to duck and jump certain hurdles and miss certain things. And it was just a lot, right? And for people that are in that industry that decide, you know what, I want to go down the lane of pursuing this music thing, but I want to miss all the highs and lows. I just want a straight ticket to fame. Do you see? For such people, they sell their soul, they blow, and we see them on our TVs, we see them on our iPhones, and they're blowing up doing that thing. But really, there's no peace there. And that's something that I began to see, that all these people that were rich, famous, etc., they didn't actually have peace. Like, it was absent. And I was just like, rah, like, on stage, like, you think they're living a lifestyle. You think they're it. Do you know what I mean? In the club, you think they're it. But behind closed doors, in their own settings, you quickly realize, like, rah, bro's depressed. Like, he's stressed, man. Like, he's going through it. There's some mental health issues and all these things. And when you begin to unravel the layers, you begin to see, like, rah, this person may be demonized, this person may be possessed, this person may be dealing with some spiritual, do you get where I'm coming from? So all of those things just really helped me see, like, this is deeper than music. Music is spiritual, you know? And yeah, these are some of the things that really opened my eyes to the reality of the spirituality of this life that we live. Do you know what I mean? So I decided that, nah, man, so many more encounters happened, but obviously I was on the road. I was kind of had one foot in, one foot out. I know God was calling me. And the truth is, because of such encounters that I had, because there was some other encounters that I had that was far worse than the one that you heard, where I didn't obviously subscribe to those, just to put it out there. But it was one of those ones where it's like, okay, cool, this is involving me now. And I can't even ignore this. Like, this is mad. Spiritual, it's mad. Like, I can't ignore this. I have to make a decision. And I just decided to cut them off. But as I cut them off physically, they were coming for me spiritually. Because the time is running short, man. Time is going, man. We need to get under the canopy properly. You know what I mean? Be like the 5 wise versions and not the foolish ones. I think being in Christ is good, but being in Christ, you need to make sure you're in Him properly, man.